Vayechi, there's an incredible story, and sometimes we become so used to the stories of the parashiyos that we just have to slow it down a little bit, and then there are some glaring questions that we have to ask ourselves. And what I'm referring to is the burial of Yaakov Avinu. Yaakov Avinu was lying there on the floor, and the psukim tell that there's a little bit of a commotion, and Esav is blocking Yaakov Avinu's burial. The body's there, the Shvatim are there, and Esav is not allowing them to bury Yaakov Avinu. Naphtali is running back to get the shtar, and amidst the whole process, Chushim ben Dan, who's blind, pulls out his sword and cuts off Esav's head, and of course the head rolls in. And a story that we know, but the question is, all the Shvatim were there. Everyone is around. Yaakov Avinu's on the floor. And it's Chushim ben Dan, the one person in the room who's blind. He's the one that pulls out the sword and kills Esav. Why didn't anyone else take action? Yaakov Avinu was lying on the floor. Yes, Chushim ben Dan was deaf, which is part of the reason he was a little bit confused as to what exactly was going on. But we could ask that Yaakov Avinu was lying on the floor, and Yaakov Avinu, it's a bizayon, it's a disgrace to the dead body. So one of the other brothers should have taken action into their own hands. So I saw a beautiful pshat that brings out such an incredible lesson, that all the other brothers weren't blind. All the other weren't deaf. All the other brothers knew exactly what was going on. Blind, excuse me. They saw the whole process, and they brought Yaakov there, and they started the conversation, and he was stopping them from going, and there was a whole procession of events. And when you're involved in the event, you are desensitized to sometimes what is right that needs to be done. Only Chushim ben Dan, who was blind, and he didn't really understand, and he wasn't intimately involved in the whole conversation. When he realized what's going on, Yaakov Avinu was lying on the floor. He pulls out a sword and he cuts off his head. And the lesson is obvious that sometimes we're involved in a situation, and because we know so much, we're desensitized, and we don't feel so poorly for a Yaakov Avinu lying on the floor. And it's a conversation, and is it right, and is it wrong? And because of the whole story, we sort of lose our minds. And only one from the outside, a Chushim ben Dan, only he says, wait, is Yaakov Avinu lying here? Bizayon, a disgrace? And he takes action into our own hands. And this calls to mind, last night I was zeichet to hear a shir from Harav Elyah Brudney Shlita. Harav Elyah Brudney, Hagoyin HaGadol, was saying over how we're sitting here well over 2 months into this Malchama, and in the beginning, everyone was very, very strong. And unfortunately, the nature is that over time, we become complacent, and this vart comes to mind that we know so many details. And sometimes we're so involved in the news and we know exactly what's happening that almost unfortunately it becomes cheap to us. And unfortunately, another soldier died. Yeah, it's part of war. It's part of war. It's another Jewish child. It's another one of our brethren. Achenu kol beis Yisrael, we daven every single day. So Elyah Brudney was telling over to a bunch of Rabbeim and Rabbanim how important it is to be machazik ourselves. And he quoted Rav Elyashiv, Maran Rav Elyashiv, that said 50 years ago that in the time of Milchama, when we find that there are soldiers unfortunately dying, we those who are sitting, us God-fearing Jews, trying to learn, trying to be better, we are the ones, writes Rav Elyashiv, that are responsible. Difficult words. But Rav Elyashiv writes that we believe in our tefillos, we believe in our schusim, we believe in our Torah. So if there's a problem, in this past week in the Milchama, the numbers have been staggering. So we don't just read the news, digest the news, give an eye and move on. But we have to be a little bit like Chushim ben Dan. And we have to take a step back and pull ourselves out and remind ourselves, this is a Milchama. There are Jewish lives being lost. So what do? We have to strengthen ourselves, not to be desensitized by the news, by the reading, unfortunately, every single day and knowing every single gory detail, but rather strengthening ourselves and realizing that Eretz Yisrael is Bitzar, we are Bitzar. Our brothers, our sisters, Yidden are sitting in mortal combat. Unfortunately, so many have been lost. And with that, be machazik ourselves, our Tehillim, our Torah, our Diktuk Ba'alacha. And that is the way, B'siyat D'Shmaya, that we, number one, could connect to the Parsha, connect to Vayechi, connect to Yaakov Avinu's Petira and his Kvura, but most importantly, connect and be better so that in Mirza Hashem the numbers will stop and we'll be victorious and we'll see incredible nisim that only come from us sitting here and learning and davening all together.